The Grand Assembly Hall was filled with representatives from 400 worlds. The massive dome stretched high above, showing the stars beyond. Creatures of every shape and size sat in their assigned places. Some had scales, others had fur. Some floated in gas containers, while others sat on specially designed chairs. They all waited for the session to begin. Ambassador Hyun-woo walked through the main entrance. He was a human, average height, with dark hair starting to gray at the temples. He wore a simple black suit. Nothing fancy. Behind him walked Yuna, a younger human woman carrying a large data case. She looked nervous. Hyun-woo did not. The other ambassadors barely looked up. Humans were not important in the assembly. They never had been. For 200 years, Earth had sent representatives to these meetings. For 200 years, those representatives had been mostly ignored. Speaker Talvek called the session to order. Talvek looked like a giant mantis, green and angular, with multiple eyes that could look in different directions at once. His voice came through a translator device, sounding mechanical and cold. We begin today's session. First on the agenda, trade disputes between the Kolmar and Vexen systems. Hyun-woo stood up. Speaker, I request immediate priority address. The hall went quiet. Humans never requested priority address. They usually sat quietly and voted when asked. Talvek's eyes swiveled toward Hyun-woo. Ambassador, you know the rules. You must file the request 3 cycles in advance. I am aware, Hyun-woo said. His voice was calm and clear. But this cannot wait. It affects every member of this assembly. Whispers filled the hall. Counselor Vorix, a being made of living crystal that reflected rainbow colors, laughed. The sound was like wind chimes. What could humans possibly have to say that affects all of us? Hyun-woo did not react to the insult. He had heard worse over the years. I will take only 5 minutes of the assembly's time. Then you will never have to hear from humanity again. That got their attention. Talvek considered for a moment, then waved a foreleg. You have 3 minutes. That will be enough. Hyun-woo walked to the center speaking platform. Yuna followed, setting up a display screen. I am here to announce that humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Assembly, effective immediately. We are also withdrawing from all treaties, trade agreements, and diplomatic relations. The hall erupted in noise. Laughter mixed with confused chirps, clicks, and translated voices. Talvek banged his staff for order. Surely this is a negotiation tactic, Vorix said, still amused. What do you want? Better trade terms? A seat on the Security Council? We want nothing, Hyun-woo said. We are leaving. Leaving? Talvek leaned forward. Leaving? Where? Known space. All of it. Hyun-woo nodded to Yuna. She activated the display. Images appeared showing massive ships. They were enormous, each one the size of a small moon. For 50 years, humanity has been building generation ships. Long-range vessels designed to travel beyond the edge of explored space. The laughter stopped. The representatives stared at the images. This is impossible, someone said. Ships that size would take centuries to build. They took 50 years, Hyun-woo replied. We started the day after the assembly voted down our request for basic colony rights. The same day you passed colony rights for the Thexian species, despite them joining the assembly 100 years after us. Vorix's colors dimmed slightly. That was different. The Thexians had strategic resources, and humans had nothing you wanted. Hyun-woo pulled up more data. The first fleet launches in 6 months. 20 ships, carrying 1 million humans each. Over the next 5 years, all 8 billion humans will leave. Our colonies are already being evacuated. Our research stations are shutting down. Our trade posts are closing. You cannot just leave, Talvek said. His voice had lost its amused tone. There are contracts. Agreements. Read them carefully. Yuna spoke for the first time. Every contract has a withdrawal clause. We are following every law. We filed the proper paperwork 3 months ago. You never read it. After the point, she was right. No one had read it. Human paperwork was always ignored, Hyunwoo continued. For 200 years, we have brought proposals to this assembly. New medical treatments, agricultural advances, diplomatic solutions. Do you know how many were accepted? The hall was silent. 12. Out of over 4,000 proposals. The rest were dismissed, delayed, or stolen and credited to other species. He pulled up records. Names and dates filled the screen. We cured the Kelvin plague. The assembly record says the Vrex Medical Institute developed the cure. They used our research. We developed quantum communications that allow instant contact across the galaxy. The record says it was a collaborative effort. It was not. This is, Vorik started to speak, true. All of it. Hyunwoo's calm finally cracked, just slightly. We offered friendship. We offered help. We asked only to be treated as equals. Instead, we were treated as lesser. As servants. As a species, too weak to matter. He took a breath and his calm returned. We are not angry. Anger would mean we still care. We are simply done. We will leave, and you will never see us again. We will find a new home. Far from here. We will build our own future. But Talvek seemed lost for words. Where will you go? That information is classified. For our security. Hyunwoo looked around the hall. You might wonder why we are telling you now. 6 months before the first launch. It is a courtesy. You have time to prepare. Many systems depend on human workers, human technology, human knowledge. You have half a year to figure out how to replace us. Yuna distributed data packets to each representative station. These contain the timeline for withdrawal. Which colonies close when? Which research projects end when? Which trade routes will be abandoned? Everything you need to know. Hyunwoo turned to leave, then stopped. He looked back at the assembly one last time. You had 200 years to treat us fairly. You had 200 years to listen. You had 200 years to see us as equals. You chose not to. Now you have 5 years to learn to live without us. He walked toward the exit. Yuna followed. Their footsteps echoed in the silent hall. Wait, Talvek called out. We can discuss this. We can make changes. Hyunwoo did not stop walking. No, you cannot. Not anymore. The doors closed behind them. The assembly sat in silence, staring at the empty space where the humans had stood. On every representative screen, the data packets waited, unopened. Outside the station, visible through the dome, a small human shuttle departed. It looked tiny against the stars. Inside the hall, Vorix's colors flickered with confusion. Talvek slowly sat back down. Around the room, representatives began to whisper. Some laughed nervously. Others looked worried. Most looked confused. They would understand soon enough. The humans were not bluffing. The humans were already gone. Medical Station Proxima orbited a blue giant star. It was the largest hospital facility in this sector of space. 10,000 patients received treatment there every day. The station had representatives from 40 different species working together. At least, it used to. Dr. Jiwon packed the last of her research files into a storage container. She had worked at Proxima for 15 years. She knew every hallway, every treatment room, every quiet corner where tired doctors went to rest. Soon, she would never see it again. What are you doing? Dr. Kresh stood in the doorway. He was tall, covered in green scales, with yellow eyes that could see heat signatures. He was also the medical director of the entire station. Why are you packing? I am leaving, Jiwon said simply. She continued packing. My transport leaves in 3 days. Leaving. For where? A vacation? For Earth. Then for the generation ships. She sealed one container and started filling another. I thought you received the notice. All human staff are departing within the month. Kresh's tail twitched, a sign of anxiety in his species. I thought that was a mistake. A computer error. You cannot leave. You run the genetic treatment wing. You have 12 critical patients. Dr. Velox can take over. She is qualified. Velox does not know your procedures. No one does. You developed them. Kresh moved into the room. Jiwan. Please. We can talk about this. If it is about money, we can increase your salary. If it is about position, I can make you head of the entire genetics department. Jiwan stopped packing. She turned to face him. It is not about money. It is not about position. Then what? Tell me what you want. Respect, she said quietly. I wanted respect. For 15 years, I wanted respect. Kresh looked confused. We respect you. Everyone here respects your work. My work. Yes, but not my people. Jiwan sat down on the edge of her desk. She looked tired. Do you know how long I have been trying to get approval for the Kelman treatment? The genetic therapy for nerve degeneration? That is still in review. It has been in review for 12 years. 12 years, Kresh. I developed it 7 years ago. It works. I have proven it works. 3,000 Kelman die every year from nerve degeneration. That is 36,000 deaths, while the assembly debates whether to trust human research. Kresh's scales darkened, a sign of shame. The review process is slow for all new treatments. The Vrex proposed a new pain medication last year. It was approved in 8 months. Jiwan stood up. The Kolmar proposed a cancer treatment. 6 months. Human proposals? Years. Decades. Or never. That is not. It is exactly like that. Jiwan pulled up her personal files on a screen. Names and dates scrolled past. Treatment for Vexen. Blood disease. Denied. Cure for Thexian scale rot. Denied. Vaccine for Kelmar fever. Denied. Later, other species proposed similar treatments using my research. Those were approved. Kresh was silent. I could have saved so many lives, Jiwan whispered. But I am human. So no one trusts my work until someone else claims it. Across the station, Engineer Dae-sung shut down the atmospheric processor in Section 7. The machine's low hum faded to nothing. Around him, maintenance crew members watched nervously. Why are you turning it off? Asked Thexalar, the mining administrator. He looked like a giant beetle, his shell a dark green that shimmered in the light. That system needs to run constantly. It needs to be shut down properly before I leave, Dae-sung explained. He worked through the shutdown sequence carefully. If you just let it run without maintenance, it will fail in about 4 months. The failure will be catastrophic. So we will have someone else maintain it. No one else knows how. Dae-sung moved to the next console. I designed this system. The manual I wrote is in the station database. But it will take years to train someone properly. Thexalar's antennae twitched with irritation. Then, stay and train someone. No. I can offer you triple your current salary. No. Why not? Thexalar's voice rose. This is your life's work. You built these systems from nothing. Why would you abandon them? Dae-sung stopped working. He turned to face the administrator. Do you know how many times I proposed upgrades to the colony life support? Upgrades that would make the colony safer, more efficient, more comfortable? I do not track every proposal. 47 times. Every proposal was rejected. Too expensive. You said. Not necessary. You said. Meanwhile, the Vrex engineer proposed a new entertainment system for the recreation area. That was approved immediately. Cost twice as much as my safety upgrades. Thexalar clicked his mandibles together. Entertainment is important for morale, and safety is important for not dying. Dae-sung went back to his shutdown procedures. But human safety concerns are not important. I understand now. So, I am leaving. You are being childish. No. I am being practical. I spent 20 years maintaining systems that no one valued. Now I will spend my time building systems that my people will value. In the Assembly's Central Diplomatic Station, young Kyung tried to explain to her teacher why she had to leave school. Miss Vel was a floating jellyfish-like creature, her translucent body glowing with soft blue light. She had always been kind to Kyung. But you are doing so well in your studies, Miss Vel said. Her voice was musical, transmitted through vibrations in the water of her tank. You were going to graduate. Top of your class. I know, Kyung said. She was only 12 years old, but she had to be strong. But my family is leaving. All humans are leaving. Surely not all. Some will stay. Kyung shook her head. No one is staying. We are all going to the new place. Why? What is wrong here? Kyung thought about how to explain. Miss Vel, do you remember when Toran hit me last month? Yes. That was unfortunate. Toran was punished. He was punished because his parents complained that he hurt his hand when he hit me. Not because he hurt me. Miss Vel's glow dimmed. That is not. It is true. I heard the administrator say it. Toran's parents are important. My parents are just humans. Kyung picked up her bag. Thank you for being nice to me. Miss Vel, you were always nice. But nice is not enough anymore. Back at Medical Station Proxima, Jiwon sealed her last container. Kresh watched her work, his tail hanging low. I did not realize, he said finally. I did not see how bad it was. Brain. Most people do not see it. That is the problem. Jiwon entered her final codes into the computer. It is not big. Dramatic discrimination. No one calls us names. No one attacks us. It is small things. Constant small things. Proposals ignored. Ideas stolen. Work undervalued. Every single day, for 200 years. What can I do? How can I fix this? Jiwon looked at him with sad eyes. Nothing. You cannot fix 200 years of disrespect in 3 days. Maybe if you had asked this question 10 years ago. Maybe if the assembly had listened 20 years ago. But now. She picked up her containers. Now, it is too late. Please, stay. I will make sure your voice is heard. You cannot promise that. You are one person. The problem is not one person. The problem is the entire system. She walked toward the door. Goodbye, Kresh. You were a good colleague. I hope you find someone who can help your patients. She left. Kresh stood alone in the empty office. On the desk, a screen still displayed the list of treatments Jiwon had developed. Treatments that could save millions of lives. Treatments that were still waiting for approval. His communicator buzzed. Another message. Another human staff member had left without notice. Then another message. Another departure. The messages kept coming. Across the station, in the colony, in schools and offices and research labs, humans were leaving. Not with anger. Not with dramatic goodbyes. They simply packed their things and left. Quiet. Determined. Final. Kresh pulled up the station staffing reports. 2,000 human employees. 600 had already left. The rest would be gone within weeks. He started reading their personnel files, really reading them for the first time. Dr. Jiwon developed 17 new treatments, published over 200 research papers. Engineer Dae-sung designed life support for 12 colonies, prevented 14 major disasters. Teacher Kyung's mother created new teaching methods used across 40 school systems. The list went on. How had he never noticed? How had none of them noticed? Kresh sat down slowly. For the first time, he felt afraid. Not for himself. For everyone. What had they done? What had they lost? Outside the window, A transport ship departed. Inside were 30 human doctors and their families. The ship turned away from the station and accelerated toward Earth. It was the first of many. The exodus had begun. The first-generation ships launched on a clear morning. Not that space had mornings, but on Earth, it was morning. 20 massive vessels rose from the planet's surface, their engines burning bright against the dawn sky. Each ship carried 1 million humans, 20 million people, leaving forever. The launch was broadcast across the entire galaxy. Billions of aliens watched. Most still did not believe it was real. Humans were practical. Humans were sensible. They would come back eventually. They had to. On the agricultural world of Harvest Prime, Minister Zill watched the broadcast. Zill was avian, covered in blue feathers, with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She was responsible for feeding 17 billion people across 8 systems. She had been doing this job for 30 years. She had never worried about food supplies. Not once. That was about to change. Minister, her assistant rushed into the office. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Dr. Minho is on one of those ships. Zill's feathers ruffled. Which Dr. Minho? The only Dr. Minho, the human agricultural scientist. He developed most of our disease-resistant crop strains. He cannot be leaving. We need him. Contact him immediately. We tried. He will not respond. His entire research team is gone too. They left 2 weeks ago. Zill pulled up her agricultural databases. She searched for Minho's name. Results flooded her screen. Hundreds of crop varieties. All developed by him or his team. Wheat that could grow in extreme cold. Rice that needed minimal water. Corn that resisted every known pest. Soybeans that produced twice the normal protein. This must be wrong, Zill whispered. One person could not have done all this. It was not one person. It was his team. 80 human scientists, working over 30 years. They are all gone. Zill kept reading. Every major crop breakthrough in the last 3 decades had human involvement. Not just involvement. Humans had led the research, but the official records listed the projects as collaborative efforts, with credit spread among many species. The humans were mentioned, but always last. Always as assistants. Get me the crop vulnerability reports, Zill ordered. The reports came up. They were not good. Without the disease-resistant strains, the colonies would face massive crop failures, famines, food riots. The reports estimated 15 billion people at risk within 2 years. Why did we not see this before? Zill asked. Her assistant looked uncomfortable. We did see it, Minister. Dr. Minho sent warnings every year. He said we relied too much on his specific crop varieties. He proposed training programs to teach others his techniques. He requested more funding for redundant research. And his requests were always denied. Too expensive. Not urgent. We had other priorities. Zill closed her eyes. What were the other priorities? The Vreks wanted funding for luxury food development. The Thexians wanted money for faster shipping. The Kolmar requested better storage facilities for their ceremonial grains. We gave them money instead of preventing famines? We did not think there would be famines. We thought the humans would always be here. Across the galaxy, on the entertainment world of Nova Dreams, a little girl named Subin recorded a message. She was 8 years old, with bright eyes and a sad smile. Her parents had told her they were leaving soon. She wanted to say goodbye to her friends. Her friends were not human. Humans were rare in this system. Most of Subin's friends were Kelmar children, with their fuzzy fur and long tails. Some were Vreks, with their multiple arms and cheerful clicks. One was a young Thexian, learning to control her color-changing scales. Subin sat in front of the camera in her small room. Behind her, boxes were stacked high. Everything was packed. "Hello, friends," she said in Galactic Common. Her accent was perfect. She had grown up speaking multiple languages. I am making this message to say goodbye. My family is leaving soon. We are going with the other humans. To the new place. I am never one. Raid Quallers. She paused, trying not to cry. I do not understand why we have to go. I asked my mom. She said it is complicated. She said the grown-ups could not be friends anymore. But we are friends, right? Why can't our parents be friends too? A tear rolled down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly. I will miss you all very much. I will miss playing star tag in the park. I will miss our study group. I will miss the festivals and the parties, and everything. She held up a small toy. A stuffed animal that looked like a Kelmar. Tala gave me this for my birthday. I will keep it forever. I will remember all of you, forever. Then she asked the question that would break hearts across the galaxy. Why did your parents not like us? We tried so hard to be good friends. We learned your languages. We celebrated your holidays. We shared everything we had. What did we do wrong? She sat quietly for a moment, tears flowing freely now. I hope you have happy lives. I hope you remember me sometimes. Goodbye. 2000. In climb. 2. Goodbye. The video ended. Someone uploaded it to the Galactic network. It spread everywhere. Within hours, billions had watched it. The innocence of the question cut deep. A child asking why she was not wanted. A child who had done nothing wrong except be born human. Parents across the galaxy watched it. They thought about their own children. They thought about their children's human friends who were leaving. Many began to ask questions. Questions they should have asked years ago. Counselor Vorix watched the video in his private chambers. He watched it 3 times. The crystalline being did not have tear ducts, but if he could have cried, he would have. Instead, his colors dimmed to dark gray, the color of deep shame. He began investigating. He used his authority to access records that were usually sealed. Personnel files, research reports, diplomatic communications. What he found horrified him. For 200 years, humans had contributed to galactic society at extraordinary levels. Medical breakthroughs, technological advances, artistic achievements, diplomatic solutions. The humans had been everywhere. Doing everything. Helping everyone. But the official records told a different story. The records minimized human contributions. Credit was redistributed to other species. Human names were buried in footnotes. It was not a conspiracy. It was worse. It was casual, automatic. No one had even thought about it. Humans were just not important enough to credit properly. Vorix found the voting records for the Security Council seats. For 150 years, humans had been nominated. For 150 years, they had been rejected. The reasons were always vague. Not ready. Need more experience. Other candidates more qualified. Note: but the Thexians had gotten a seat after only 50 years in the assembly. The Kelmar after 70. The Vrex after 30. What made humans different? Vorix knew the answer. Nothing made them different. That was the problem. Humans looked weak. They were not as strong as the Kolmar. Not as long-lived as the Vrex. Not as numerous as the Kelmar. They were just average in every physical way. But they had something else. Something no one had valued. They had creativity. They had determination. They had an incredible ability to understand and work with other species. They had been the glue holding the assembly together, and no one had noticed. Now they were leaving. And the assembly was already falling apart. The food shortages were just the beginning. Trade routes were disrupted because human logistics coordinators were gone. Medical facilities were closing entire wings because human doctors had left. Research projects were being abandoned because human scientists had departed. On 17 worlds, emergency services had collapsed. Humans had designed most emergency response systems. They had trained the responders. They had written the protocols. Without them, no one knew what to do. Minister Zill stared at her reports. The first crop failures had already begun. In 6 months, there would be shortages. In a year, famine. 15 billion people at risk. And she could do nothing. The knowledge was gone. The experts were gone. The humans were gone. She tried to contact Dr. Minho one more time. The communication was rejected. Vorix called for an emergency assembly session. Only half the representatives showed up. They were all dealing with crises on their own worlds. The assembly chamber felt empty. "We must send a delegation to Earth," Vorix announced. "We must negotiate." "Negotiate what?" Talvek asked. "They are not asking for anything. They just want to leave. Then, we must convince them to stay." "How?" "What can we offer that will undo 200 years?" No one had an answer. Outside, in the cold of space, the generation ships continued their journey. They were already too far to see from most worlds. They would soon be too far to contact. Humanity was slipping away, and the galaxy was just beginning to understand what it was losing. Subin's video played on screens everywhere. Her question echoed in millions of minds. "Why did your parents not like us?" No one had a good answer. They were all beginning to realize they might never have one. The solar flare hit the Virgan system without warning. It was massive. One of the largest ever recorded. The system's star had been stable for millions of years. Then, in one terrible moment, it erupted. 4 billion people lived in the Virgon system. Most lived on 3 planets and dozens of orbital stations. They had 6 hours to evacuate before the radiation wave would kill everything in its path. Director Plex received the emergency alert. Plex was a gaseous being, existing as a cloud of thinking particles inside a containment suit. He had been the emergency response director for the sector for 20 years. He had handled dozens of disasters. Earthquakes, asteroid impacts, industrial accidents. But never anything this big. He pulled up the emergency protocols. The screen showed a file name, Virgan System Evacuation Protocol, designed by Dr. Tae-Yang, Human Emergency Response Coordinator. End quote. Plex felt his particles contract with sudden fear. Tae-Yang. He knew that name. Tae-Yang had transferred to Earth 3 months ago. Tae-Yang was gone. He opened the file anyway. The protocol was comprehensive, detailed. It showed exactly how to evacuate 4 billion people in an emergency. Ship assignments, flight paths, refugee processing, medical triage, supply distribution, everything. But it was complicated. Very complicated. Tae-Yang had designed it to be executed by a trained team with his guidance. Plex had never trained on it. No one had. They had always assumed Tae-Yang would be there if they needed him. Plex sent out the emergency call. "All available ships report to Virgan system immediately. We have 6 hours to evacuate 4 billion people." The response was chaos. Ships arrived from nearby systems, but no one knew where to go. The evacuation routes overlapped. Ships collided trying to reach the same stations. Refugees crowded spaceports with no organization. Children got separated from parents. The elderly and sick were left behind in the confusion. Plex tried to follow the protocol. He really tried. But there were too many steps, too many details, and the protocol assumed certain equipment would be available. Equipment that humans had designed, equipment that no one else knew how to operate. "Where is the orbital tether system?" someone asked. "The humans maintained it," another voice responded. "It has been offline for 2 months. No one knew how to fix it. The tether system would have evacuated 2 million people from the main planet. Without it, those people were trapped. Use the emergency shuttles. They are not enough. We need the tether." Plex made decisions as fast as he could. Save who you can. Prioritize children. Move faster. But it was not fast enough. It was never going to be fast enough. The radiation wave hit exactly when the scientists predicted. 3 billion people had been evacuated. 1 billion had not. Plex watched the sensors as life signs across the Virgon system simply stopped. 1 billion souls. Gone in an instant. He floated in his command center, surrounded by screens showing empty worlds. His particles swirled in anguish. "We could have saved them," he whispered. "If we had trained. If we had practiced. If we had listened to Taeyang when he begged us to run evacuation drills. But they had never run the drills. Too expensive. Too time-consuming. Not necessary. The humans would handle it. If something happened. Except now the humans were gone. And 1 billion people had paid the price. The economic reports were getting worse. The Assembly's GDP had dropped by 30%. 30% in just 2 years. Entire industries were collapsing. No one had realized how much humans contributed to the economy. They were inventors. They designed new products constantly. They were artists. Their music, their stories, their visual art had been popular across hundreds of worlds. They were entertainers. They were teachers. They were engineers. They were everywhere. And now, they were nowhere. The Vrex tried to fill the gap. Their best minds worked day and night to replace human innovation. They failed. They could copy what humans had made. They could not create new things at the same pace. No one could. The Kelmar tried next. They were clever, good with their hands. They managed to keep some human-designed systems running. But when those systems broke down, the Kelmar could not fix them. The knowledge was too specialized. The expertise was gone. Species began to fight over resources. Trade agreements collapsed. Old rivalries reignited. The humans had been the diplomats who kept peace. They had been the neutral party everyone trusted. Without them, trust evaporated. On the assembly station, Nari packed her personal belongings. She had been the assistant to Ambassador Hyunwoo. Now, she was the last human official left in the assembly complex. Her transport left tomorrow. She would be on one of the final generation ships. Speaker Talvek came to her office. He stood in the doorway, looking old and tired. "Please," he said. "Please stay. Just you. We need someone who understands how things worked." Nari looked at him. There was no anger in her eyes. Just sadness. "No. I am begging you. Name your price. Anything you want. There is nothing I want from you." "Then what? What would it take?" Nari sat down. She gestured for Talvek to sit too. He did, his legs folding. In that complex way, mantis-like beings moved. "Do you know what would have made us stay?" Nari asked. 5 years ago? Tell me. An apology. One simple apology from the assembly. An acknowledgement that we had been treated unfairly. That would have been enough. Talvek's antenna drooped. That is all? That was all. We did not need money, or power, or special treatment. We just needed to be seen, to be valued, to be respected. Nari pulled up a file on her computer. "Do you know what this is?" "No. This is a record of every human proposal to the assembly for the last 200 years. 4,732 proposals. Medical treatments. Technology. Innovations. Diplomatic initiatives. Cultural exchanges. Peace treaties." She scrolled through the list. It went on and on. 12 were accepted. 12 out of 4,000. "Do you know what happened to the rest?" Talvek said nothing. Some were rejected outright. Some were delayed indefinitely. But most were stolen. Other species took our research, changed a few details, and proposed it as their own. Those versions were accepted. We watched our own work get approved. Over and over. With our names erased. I did not know. You did not want to know. It was easier to ignore us. Nari closed the file. 3 years ago, we would have stayed for an apology. 2 years ago, we would have stayed for a promise to do better. 1 year ago, we would have stayed for actual reform. And now? Now we do not trust you. You had centuries to change. You only care now because you need us. That is not respect. That is convenience. Talvek was silent for a long moment. What if I restructure the entire assembly? What if I make humans the leaders? Give you complete authority over everything? Nari smiled sadly. You think this is about power? It never was. We did not want to rule you. We wanted to work with you. As equals. As friends. But you cannot force friendship. You cannot buy trust. We are tired, Talvek. We are tired of not mattering. She showed him another file. This one was personal records. Human families who had lived in the assembly. This is the Lee family. They lived on Vergan 3. The parents were teachers. The children were in school. They all died in the evacuation disaster. Talvek's colors paled. The Lees asked for better emergency protocols 5 years ago. They were told it was not a priority. They died because no one listened. Nari pulled up more files. The Chen family lost their medical clinic because funding was redirected to Vrek's entertainment projects. The Park family. Their farm was seized for a Thexian resort. The Kim family. Their son was denied university admission because the spot went to a less qualified Kelmar student with political connections. The list continued. Families hurt. Dreams crushed. Injustices ignored. For 200 years. Every human has a story like this, Nari said. Some small. Some large. All real. We are not leaving because of one big event. We are leaving because of 10,000 small ones. And we are done. Please. Talvek's voice broke. I will do anything. No, you will not. You will do what is convenient. What benefits you. That is what you have always done. You are a product of your system. A system that valued some species more than others. A system we no longer want to be part of. What happens to us now? Nari looked out the window at the stars. I do not know. That is your problem to solve. We have our own future to build. Will you ever come back? No. Our children will grow up never knowing you existed. They will live on our new worlds. They will build their own society. One where everyone matters. Where everyone is heard. Where respect is not something you have to beg for. She picked up her bag. Goodbye, Talvek. I hope you learn from this. I hope you treat the remaining species better than you treated us. But I will never know. And I am fine with that. She walked out. Talvek sat alone in the empty office. On the desk, the files remained open. 10,000 stories of casual cruelty. Of good people driven away by a society that did not value them. He had never seen it before. None of them had. And now it was too late to fix it. The last generation ship sat in orbit around Earth. It was the largest of them all, carrying 2 million humans. Among them was Ambassador Hyun Woo. He stood on the observation deck, looking down at the planet below. The planet his species had called home for millions of years. Earth looked beautiful from space. Blue and green and white. Clouds swirled over the oceans. Continents spread across the surface. It had been a good home, but it was time to leave. All systems ready, Ambassador, a young officer reported. We can launch on your order. Not yet, Hyunwoo said. We wait for the last shuttle. There are still 50 people on the surface. Yes, sir. In the Grand Assembly Hall, every seat was filled. This had not happened in years. Representatives from all 400 member species had come. They sat in silence, waiting. In the center of the hall, one chair remained empty. The human chair. Speaker Talvek called the session to order. His voice was heavy with emotion. We gather today to witness the final departure of humanity. In 1 hour, their last ship will leave. I have called this session so we can all see what we have done. Counselor Forex stood. His crystal form was dark, the color of morning. I have completed my investigation. I have the full report on human contributions to the assembly. I ask permission to present it. Granted. Vorix activated the main display. Numbers filled the screens. Graphs. Charts. Evidence. For 200 years, humanity contributed 40% of all medical advances, 60% of all diplomatic peace treaties, 35% of technological innovations, 70% of artistic and cultural content. They were 11% of the Assembly's population, but produced 43% of the Assembly's total value. Gasps filled the hall. The numbers were shocking. How had no one seen this? But official records show different numbers, Vorix continued. In the records, human contributions are listed at 5% across all categories. The difference is not an error. It is systematic erasure. He pulled up specific examples. Medical patents credited to other species. Research papers with human names removed. Trade agreements where human negotiators were never mentioned. Art classified as unknown origin when the artist was human. We did this, Vorix said. His voice echoed in the silent hall. Not through malice, through indifference. Humans were not important to us, so we did not see them. We took their work and never said thank you. We took their help and never offered help in return. We took their presence for granted. He showed voting records, Security Council nominations, colony rights proposals, resource allocation decisions. In every case, humans were denied, while other species with less qualifications were approved. Why? Someone asked. Why did we treat them this way? Because we could? Vorix answered. Because they did not complain loudly. Because they continued to help us, even when we hurt them. We mistook kindness for weakness. We mistook patience for acceptance. He pulled up one final document. This is a list of every human who died in service to the assembly. Scientists who died testing their own medicines. Engineers who died repairing critical systems. Soldiers who died protecting alien worlds. Diplomats who died negotiating peace. The list contains 47,000 names. Enter. 1P. The hall was silent. We never built them a memorial. We never held a ceremony. We barely mentioned their sacrifices in our records. They gave everything, and we gave them nothing. Talvek stood. I have a proposal. We acknowledge our failures. We reform the entire assembly structure. We create protections to ensure no species is ever treated this way again. We dedicate monuments to human contributions. We teach our children what we lost and why. Agreed, said the Vrex representative. Agreed, said the Kelmar. One by one, every representative voted yes. Unanimous approval. Something that had never happened before. It is done, Talvek said. These reforms will begin immediately. It does not matter, a quiet voice said. Everyone turned. In the human chair sat a small figure, not an ambassador, a child. Somehow, little Subin had entered the hall. She sat in the oversized chair, her feet not reaching the floor. You should not be here, child, Talvek said gently. My ship does not leave for 2 more hours. I wanted to see this place one more time. Subin looked around the hall. My daddy worked here. He said this was an important place, a place where different people became friends. We are trying to fix our mistakes, but we are still leaving. Yes, then it does not matter. You are only sorry because we are leaving. You are only changing because you need us. Subin spoke with the brutal honesty of children. My teacher said that is not a real apology. A real apology is when you are sorry for hurting someone, not sorry for being caught. The words hit like a physical blow. The child was right. They were not sorry for 200 years of mistreatment. They were sorry for the consequences. What would you have us do? Vorix asked. Subin thought about it. I do not know. Maybe nothing. Maybe some things cannot be fixed. She climbed down from the chair. Goodbye. I hope you are nicer to each other after we are gone. She walked out. The hall remained silent. No one knew what to say. On Earth's surface, artist Junho made his final visit to the human embassy. The building was empty now. Everyone had left. But he had one last thing to do. In the main hall, he unveiled his final sculpture. It was made of stone and metal, built to last forever. The sculpture showed two hands reaching toward each other. They were close. So close, but they did not touch. There was a gap between them, just a few inches. A gap that would never close. At the base of the sculpture, Junho carved words. That was all. 2 words. But they said everything. Humanity had tried. For 200 years, they had tried to build friendship. They had tried to contribute. They had tried to belong, and they had been rejected, over and over, until they had nothing left to give. Junho stepped back to look at his work. It was good. Sad, but good. Future archaeologists might find it someday. They would wonder what it meant. They would study it, and debate it, and try to understand. But the people who needed to understand would never see it. He left the embassy for the last time. The doors closed behind him. In the silent hall, the sculpture stood alone. 2 hands, forever reaching, never touching. On the Generation ship, Hyunwoo received the message. The last shuttle had launched. All humans were off the planet. Everyone was accounted for. Begin launch sequence, he ordered. The ship's engines came to life. Slowly, majestically, the massive vessel began to move. It turned away from Earth, away from the assembly, away from everything humans had known. In the assembly hall, representatives watched on the screens. They watched the ship accelerate. They watched it grow smaller. They watched it approach the jump point that would take it out of known space. Where are they going? Someone asked. We do not know, Talvek answered. They encrypted all navigation data. We will never find them. Can we send a message? One last attempt? We can try. They tried. They sent messages of apology, messages of regret, messages begging humans to reconsider. The messages were transmitted at light speed, chasing the departing ship. On the ship, Hyunwoo saw the messages arrive. Dozens of them, hundreds, all saying the same thing. Sorry. Please come back. We will do better. He read them all. Then he deleted them. Sir, the communications officer said hesitantly. Should we at least acknowledge receiving the messages? No. Hyunwoo said quietly. Let them wonder. Let them hope. Let them learn what it feels like to reach out and receive no answer. The ship reached the jump point. In a flash of light, it disappeared. Humans were gone from known space. Gone completely. No one knew where they went. No one would ever know. In the years that followed, the assembly tried to implement their reforms. They really tried. But it was too hard. Different species had different ideas. Old rivalries returned. Without humans to mediate, conflicts escalated. Wars broke out. The economy never recovered. Without human innovation, growth stopped. Technology stagnated. Art became repetitive. The galaxy grew dimmer, less creative, less hopeful. Statues were built to honor human contributions. Schools taught about the species that had been lost. Children learned the names of human heroes. But it all felt hollow, like decorating a grave. The human chair in the assembly hall was never filled. It sat empty, a reminder of failure. Some representatives wanted to remove it. Others insisted it stay. Eventually, they compromised. They put a plaque on it. The plaque read, "Reserved for humanity. We did not value them when they were here. We honor them now that they are gone. May we never make this mistake again." It was a nice sentiment, but the species that needed to hear it were already gone. Deep in space, beyond the edge of explored territory, The human ships flew on. Inside them, 8 billion people built a new life. They had schools and farms and factories. They had art and music and laughter. They had everything they needed. Sometimes, the older generation told stories about the assembly, about the aliens they had known, about the worlds they had left behind. The young people listened politely, but they did not really understand. Why would anyone want to go back? Did you miss them? A child asked her grandfather. The old man thought about it. Sometimes, there were good people there, people who were kind to us, but not enough of them. No. Will we ever go back? The old man looked out at the stars ahead. New stars. Unknown stars. Stars that held promise instead of disappointment. No, he said. We will never go back. We are going home. The ships flew on. The assembly fractured and struggled, and slowly collapsed under the weight of its own prejudice. Ahead of them, somewhere in the infinite dark, lay a new world, a new beginning, a place where humanity would never again have to beg for respect. They had tried to fix the assembly. They had tried to be good members. But some things cannot be fixed. Some relationships, once broken, stay broken forever. And sometimes, the only healthy choice is to leave and never look back. The human ships disappeared into the darkness, and the galaxy learned too late what it had lost. In the assembly hall, the empty chair remained, a monument to a mistake that could never be undone. A reminder that some words, like "I'm sorry," only matter if you say them in time. The humans had left, and the assembly would spend the rest of its existence wondering what might have been if they had simply chosen kindness.